Welcome back to Dinar Community Channel. The news spread like wildfire across communities of Iraqi dinar holders worldwide. What had been anticipated for years had finally become reality. The first public exchanges of the Iraqi dinar at new, internationally recognized rates had been confirmed. For so long, the revaluation had existed as a subject of hope, speculation, and cautious optimism, with only whispers from behind banking doors to fuel belief. But now, this was not rumor, not conjecture, and not an unverified leak. This was confirmed, witnessed, and documented. The dinar community was electrified, with celebrations erupting both online and in person, as decades of waiting seemed to crystallize into a single historic moment. In financial history, there are few events that truly carry generational impact. The revaluation of a national currency, particularly one as politically and economically significant as the Iraqi dinar, is one such moment. This was more than an adjustment of numbers on a screen. It was the culmination of a reconstruction journey for Iraq, a nation that had endured war, sanctions, economic isolation, and political turmoil. For holders of the dinar, whether they were seasoned investors or everyday people who had quietly set aside small stacks of currency in hope of a brighter financial future, the confirmation of public exchanges marked a profound turning point. In major cities across the United States, reports began flooding in of early morning activity at designated exchange centers and select banking branches. Some locations had been prepared for days, with specialized currency handling rooms and security staff on standby. At first, those who arrived were met with strict check-in procedures and confidentiality agreements. But within hours, word began leaking out from individuals who had completed their exchanges, ordinary people who, just that morning, had still been holding stacks of IQD notes, and by afternoon, were looking at freshly credited bank accounts holding sums that, in many cases, were life-changing. The atmosphere at these early exchange locations was unlike anything most participants had ever experienced. While the banking environment was professional and security-heavy, the emotional energy was impossible to ignore. Some individuals were visibly overwhelmed, holding back tears as they left the exchange counters. Others emerged smiling ear to ear, clutching folders containing their transaction receipts. Conversations outside the buildings reflected disbelief and gratitude in equal measure. For years, so many had been told it would never happen. For years, they had endured skepticism from friends, family, and the financial establishment. And now, the proof was tangible. The first public exchanges were real, and they were happening. Bank employees at participating locations were described as calm but clearly aware of the historic nature of the moment. Many reportedly worked extended hours to accommodate the initial rush, carefully processing each transaction with attention to verification, rate confirmation, and account funding. There were strict guidelines, transactions were documented in detail, currency was verified for authenticity, and large transfers were monitored to comply with anti-money laundering regulations. Customers were reminded to review their contracts, understand any tax implications, and maintain security over their new financial positions. Despite the meticulous procedures, there was a sense of urgency and momentum, as if the banks themselves understood that the world was watching. What made this moment so significant was that it represented the first verifiable confirmation of a public exchange at the new rate, not a private or prearranged transaction for elites or insider groups. This was the opening of the door to the wider dinar holding public, proving that the system was live, rates were active, and the revaluation was not merely a theoretical possibility. While exact rates varied slightly by location and bank policy, they were all consistent with the figures long speculated in the community, rates that instantly transformed modest currency holdings into substantial wealth. Online, the reaction was nothing short of explosive. Social media platforms saw a flood of posts from dinar holders, some sharing pictures of their receipts with sensitive details blurred, others posting emotional videos thanking those who had encouraged them to hold on through years of doubt. Popular forums dedicated to the dinar lit up with detailed reports, timelines, and step-by-step breakdowns from those who had completed their exchanges. Verified community leaders began issuing statements confirming what had long been anticipated: the public phase of the Iraqi dinar revaluation had begun. In Iraq itself, the revaluation carried deeper meaning beyond investment returns. For many citizens, the strengthening of their national currency was a powerful symbol of restored sovereignty and economic dignity. Local media began covering the story from a national pride perspective, emphasizing that the new exchange rates reflected the country's improved fiscal stability, increased foreign reserves, and integration into the global financial system. Economic analysts noted that the revaluation was not an overnight miracle but the result of years of policy reforms, infrastructure rebuilding, and international negotiations. Still, the implications for global markets were hard to ignore. As Iraq's currency value adjusted, it affected trade agreements, oil contracts, and foreign investment strategies. Analysts began discussing potential ripple effects in Middle Eastern economies and beyond, especially in light of other rumored currency adjustments in the region. For banking institutions, this marked the execution of years of behind-the-scenes preparation, currency training programs for staff, software updates to handle new rates, and discrete infrastructure adjustments to process large-scale exchanges without disruption. Many dinar holders spent years quietly preparing for this day. Some had carefully planned their post-exchange strategies, working with financial advisors and estate planners to ensure that their sudden wealth would be managed wisely. Others admitted they were still in shock, scrambling to figure out their next steps. Financial experts began appearing on live streams, urging recipients of the new funds to prioritize debt elimination, secure investments, and sustainable lifestyle adjustments rather than impulsive spending. In coffee shops, family living rooms, and community gatherings, stories began to emerge of how the revaluation was changing lives overnight. A retired veteran in Texas reportedly paid off his mortgage in full just hours after leaving the exchange center. A single mother in Ohio described how she would finally be able to fund her children's college education without loans. A small business owner in California announced plans to expand operations, hire more staff, and increase wages, changes made possible by the capital infusion from his exchange. These were not abstract economic theories. These were tangible transformations, happening in real time. Despite the celebratory atmosphere, cautionary voices reminded the community that new wealth comes with new responsibilities. Security experts warned of the risks of publicizing exchange details, both for personal safety and to avoid scams targeting newly funded accounts. The reality was that, as news of public exchanges spread, opportunists would undoubtedly look for ways to exploit inexperienced recipients. Authorities advised keeping exchange details private, using trusted professionals for financial management, and being wary of unsolicited offers or investment pitches. Interestingly, even skeptics who had dismissed the revaluation for years began to take notice as the confirmed exchanges were reported by credible witnesses. The tone in financial discussion forums shifted from mockery to curiosity, with some analysts openly admitting that they had underestimated Iraq's economic trajectory. Mainstream media outlets, long silent on the topic, began to quietly investigate the unfolding events, contacting banks, currency traders, and government agencies for official comment. One particularly telling sign of the legitimacy of the moment came from within the banking industry itself. Employees from non-participating banks, upon hearing of the confirmed exchanges, began reaching out to corporate leadership to ask when their own institutions would begin processing IQD transactions. Internal memos circulated within several major banks indicated that more branches would be added to the public exchange network in the coming days, suggesting that the process was scaling up rapidly. In the broader context, the Iraqi dinar revaluation serves as a powerful reminder of how geopolitical shifts, economic reform, and patient investment can converge into moments of historic change. For those who held onto their dinar through years of uncertainty, the confirmation of the first public exchanges was not just a financial milestone, it was a personal victory over doubt, a vindication of faith, and, for many, the start of a new chapter in life. What happens next remains to be seen. As more banks go live and more holders complete their exchanges, the initial rush may give way to a more structured, steady process. Exchange centers will continue to operate under strict guidelines, and rate fluctuations may occur as the market absorbs the impact of the revaluation. The international financial community will be watching closely, measuring how Iraq's strengthened currency influences trade flows, foreign investment, and regional economic stability. For now, the celebrations continue. Across the globe, from small rural towns to major urban centers, dinar holders are calling friends, gathering with family, and sharing in the realization that the moment they dreamed of is no longer somewhere in the future, it is happening now. The sound of champagne corks popping, the laughter of friends reuniting after years of speculation, and the quiet, reflective tears of those who waited so long, These are the sounds marking the first chapter of the public exchange era. It is rare in the modern financial world for an event to be both deeply personal and globally significant, but this one fits that description perfectly. For Iraq, it is the reassertion of economic sovereignty. For the dinar community, it is the long-awaited payoff for patience, perseverance, and belief in the face of skepticism. And for the world, it is a moment to watch closely, a reminder that sometimes, against the odds, the impossible does indeed happen. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new financial reality for thousands, soon to be millions, of people around the world. The Iraqi dinar's revaluation will be studied, debated, and remembered for decades to come. But for those who were there in the early hours of the first confirmed public exchanges, it will forever be a day when history moved from speculation into reality, a day when patience was rewarded and the community's faith was vindicated in full. Like and subscribe for more videos.